What's going on, everybody? Spaceballs here. Welcome back to another Skylanders video. Alright everyone, today we're going to talk about rare Skylanders. We already covered Legendary and Heroic, and then in the next video we will cover Premiums. Now I know I titled these videos the best starting, and I do like to go over the top 5 best starting Skylanders. And that's just to help people get an idea of which one you should be building first, and then at the end of the video, we kind of touch on each Skylander for its category. This way, just giving you guys a general idea or general knowledge of what Skylanders you should actually be building within like your first month to 2 months of playing the game. And with all of these great Skylanders in the game, there's really no right or wrong answer on which ones you should actually be building. But I know this series is helping people decide on which Skylanders to actually build, so we are going to follow it to the end. So let's get right into this one here. And today we're going to be covering rares. And just remember, this is in no particular order or anything like that. We're just going to cover the best 5 starting Skylanders in my opinion. Just remember, guys, this is my opinion. I do talk to people every single day in Discord, on Twitch, and other creators that do play the game. And then I put these lists together. I don't want to really call it a list, but it's just the 5 best starting Skylanders. And again, it's in my opinion, so just keep that in mind. And I'd love to hear your comments down below. Maybe I don't give a Skylander enough credit, or maybe I left one out. So definitely comment down below and let us know. I love to read your comments. I love interacting with you guys. You guys are amazing. So let's move on in this one here, and let's pull up the rare Skylanders. And I know you guys are going to smile when I talk about the first one on this list. This one is quite obvious because you guys know the 2 rares that I'm always talking about and the one that I use to this day, and the 2 obvious ones. And the first one will be Stealth Elf. Wherever she is, here she is. Now, since the day I started playing this game, I've been using Stealth Elf. They actually give you her for free, I believe on 2-1 Adventure, or whenever you start actually playing the story mode, you get Stealth Elf right in the beginning, along with Eruptor, and I think there's another one, but I can't remember which one it is. But you do get Stealth Elf, and you do get Flashwing eventually when you start doing the story mode, which is Adventures mode. But here we have Stealth Elf, and she is a rare. Now, the one thing I want to touch on before we actually get into this video, and this also goes towards premium units. Now, the thing with rares and premiums is their base stats are always going to hold you back a little bit when you're fighting these high legendary teams in PvP content, because obviously the base stats are always going to be better on a legendary and a heroic. Now, if you have a rare, it can definitely, compete with an heroic if you have good enough runes on it. Same thing with an heroic to a legendary, and then same thing with a premium to a rare. But when you start talking about a premium to a heroic or a premium to a legendary, the legendary is always going to outshine the lower unit because of base stats. But in a lot of cases, some rares are still really usable, like Stealth Elf, especially on offense when you have full control of her. Now, she has a fantastic kit. First up is her passive. And just remember, Stealth Elf does not have a leader skill. We have grant stealth effect on yourself for 3 turns. If the attack target is in break or knockdown status after attacking the enemy. Additionally, if the stealth effect is granted on yourself, grants the critical rate up by 10% and the attack up by 20% for 3 turns. And now this is really good on Stealth Elf because Stealth Elf you're going to be runing with a lot of crit rate, and I'll show you why in just a second on her A2. And because she can really dish out that damage, so you want her critting all the time. And the main reason you want her critting is because you want her proccing this skill here, which inflicts 81% of the attack and damage to one enemy 2 times, and inflicts 43% of additional damage to all enemies if you land a critical hit. So what this means is when you target an enemy and you hit a critical hit on it, you will actually proc into an AoE. Now, the AoE doesn't do as much damage as you would think it does, but it is nice. Like if you have a Flashwing with a little sliver of HP left, she will take it out, and it does come in handy. And if you ruin her with enough attack, crit rate, and crit damage, she will actually do nice damage on that proc. And then we got the A1 here, and for a rare unit, she has one of the best A1s in the game. And this comes with poison, knockdown, and evasion rate down. Evasion rate down is so good in PvP content, so don't sleep on evasion rate down. So that is Stealth Elf. She's amazing if you have her, build her. And I feel like you'll use her even late game when you kind of have a lot of heroics and legendaries built, because she kind of always just comes in handy. She's good to just have. And the thing with rares and premiums, even though you might not be able to use them 2 or 3 months from now, they're so cheap to build that it's really not an issue. Because like if you're building a legendary, you can build like 4 rare units to that one legendary. So in that sense, when you first start playing the game and you don't have a lot of resources, it's actually nice to be able to, build 3 or 4 rares and then have them carry through the game. And then you can start focusing on your heroics and legendaries. Next up here is another obvious one, as I'm sure you guys know already, which is Flashwing. I just wanted to cover these 2 and get them out of the way because I talk about them all the time. You guys already know that Flashwing and Stealth Elf are like the best starting Skylanders in the game, period. Not just based on their, status of being rares or, whether they're premiums or heroics, but them being rares and them being as good as they are. And the fact that you see Stealth Elf and Flashwing, even to this day in late PvP content, just to know that you can invest in them and they will still carry you through the PvP and PvE side of the content. And I feel like 99.9% of the game are still using Flashwing to this day because she is just such a strong healer. I don't really have to say much about her here. The only downside to her is that she has 2 rings. But if you get really high HP and defense rolls on the substats of these rings along with effect resistance, you can actually get her pretty tanky. So we have the passive here, and if Flashwing's HP is below 50%, she will put the strength buff on herself for 2 turns. Really comes in handy when she gets, a really hard hit from somebody, and then her HP gets like to 25%. In the following turn, she will put up that strength buff, and it will make her much stronger, so she can get to her heal before she actually gets taken out. That passive has actually saved my Flashwing so many times in PvP content. And then we got the A2, and this is probably the strongest heal in the entire game. Next to like Spotlight, which is LDs though, but I mean for like actually being able to build in your first week or 2 of playing, probably one of the strongest heals in the game in that aspect. So he covers the HP of all allies by 25% by their own maxed HP, and recovers the endurance by 2 turns. Really strong heal. And then we have the A1, and we have a defense down, which comes in handy because sometimes it just gives you that little bit of extra damage. And then we have the effect resistance down, which is again comes in handy. They're only 10%, but not a bad A1 for a full support healer. Now the next one on the list, I'm sure is a little bit obvious to you guys as well, and that is going to be my man Eruptor. He is on like every single team in PvP content, Sky Arena content. This man is a force to be reckoned with because the way his kit works, it takes like 4 to 5 turns to take him out. I mean, I'm sure when you get later in the game and you have a bunch of DPSers that are just, dealing raw DPS damage, he won't be as hard to deal with. But if someone's like a month or 2 in the game like me and my main team doesn't really have like, big burst damage, it's more like debuff damage, this man is really hard to take out. I'm actually going to start working on my Eruptor really soon. So we have his passive here, which is increases defense by 15%. And this is whenever Eruptor's turn begins. Then he also gives himself a shield by 15% of his max HP. And this is what makes him so hard to take out in like 1 or 2 turns. And he can really turn the fight around because he also dishes out a lot of damage at the same time. His A2 here, he decreases attack by 20%. This skill actually does really big damage. And then he also does the attack down by 20% with a 30% chance. It is a little bit low, but he does do really good damage. His kit is just really good synergy for arena defense. And then we have a provoke, which makes the enemy attack him. And being that you're going to be stacking HP and defense on him, this provoke is really good. And then he also has the decrease resistance by 10%. Fantastic rare, and I feel like people are still going to be using him, a year to 2 years from now when we're all, stacked with our legendary and heroic super boosted Skylanders. We're still going to have our Eruptors on our team because that's how good he actually is. Now, I'm not saying he's great for like clearing Cyclops and, PvE content, but as far as PvP content goes, one of the best Skylanders out there, let me tell you. Next on the list, we're going to go with Igniter. And again, his kit doesn't really seem like he would be, a force to be reckoned with, but he actually is. Does really good damage if he's built right, but this man definitely needs the right builds. And because he doesn't have a ring, sometimes it's a little bit hard to get the DPS, output that you're looking for. And we have his passive here. If his HP is below 50%, increases his critical damage by 20%. Now, if you could put a ring on him, you could probably get this man to do a ton of damage. Then we have his A2, which is a knockdown. And then he also does a nice chunk of damage with this A2. And that's 157% of attack and damage to one enemy. And increases the attack by 10% if the enemy proposes debuff effects. And then is able to put the enemy in knockdown status. And then on his A1, we have evasion rate down and defense down. And he does have really nice multipliers, and that's why he does really good damage. Like when reading his kit, you would think like, he's not that great compared to others, but he actually is really good, especially early on. He's a good unit to have in your arena defense. And he also does 150% of attack and damage, and that is a really high multiplier for a rare. And you could actually use him in PvE content as well. And next up here, this one was a little bit tricky because I was actually going back and forth between Boomer and Chill and Blast Zone. Now, all 3 of them are really good, but as far as like starting off goes, and that's kind of what these videos are geared to, is like your first couple weeks of playing, and it's actually going to be Mrs. Chill. Now, sometimes I call her a guy. Don't yell at me in the comments. No, I'm only kidding. You can yell at me if you want. Now, the thing with Chill is a lot of us forget early on about substigation, and having Chill built will really help you out in substigation because of the freeze, and she's really cheap to build, doesn't cost a lot of resources, and most of the time when we're building our main team, we're not really thinking of substigation, and she's such a key unit for that, especially your first month of playing this game, and that's why I gave this last top 5 spot to Chill. And I honestly started building my Chill early on, and then I kind of like fell off from doing it, and I wish I didn't, because I feel like if I had Chill built, my substigation score would probably be about 200k higher, and that is why Chill gets this last spot. So if we have a defense buff up, we will give the enemy a freeze effect, and this freeze effect is so strong in PvP content and so strong in substigation. So not only can you use her, in your substigation, you can also use her in your arena defense and Sky Arena defense. And now with this Sky Arena in the game, it really makes a lot of these rares and premiums more usable because you have to build so many and you're not going to have the resources, in your first couple of weeks of playing to build all of these heroics and legendaries that you want to build right away. And then we have the A2. And again, very good synergy. This puts up a freeze effect on one enemy and hits 2 times. And then we have the A1, which is provoked. So now that actually forces the enemy to attack Chill, just like a Ruptor. And then we actually put a 20% defense buff on ourselves, which goes perfect with this passive, because then when they attack us, because they have to, we put the freeze effect up on the enemy that is attacking us. And being that they're forced to, by this provoke, her kit is just perfect synergy, and she is such a great Skylander to build when you start playing Skylanders Ring of Heroes. Now, there's a few others I want to go over here, which is Boomer and Blast Zone. Now, when you're building your first bomb team, probably won't be your first team that you build when you start playing, but later on you will want to start building, a bomb team. Blast Zone and Boomer are both great picks for that team. We have a passive which gives Blast Zone 20% accuracy. Then we have a knockdown on his A2 if they have an explosion, and if you're using a bomb team, 9 out of 10 times they're going to have an explosion effect on them. And then we have the A1, which is basically puts up an explosion effect with a 30% chance. And then Boomer is very similar to Blast Zone, except he has a passive that puts up an explosion effect if he evades the target enemy. And this makes Boomer so good for these evasion tech teams because he's tech. And if you're using Gear Shift as your leader, Boomer fits into that team wonderfully. And then we got the A2, which is attacks all enemies and puts up an explosion effect. That is a fantastic A2. I absolutely love my Boomer. And then we have the A1, which is a knockdown and a resistance down. Boomer, top tier, especially for your first bomb team. Again, this is so hard for me. This is why I kind of separate the best 5 starting ones and then just kind of touch on the rest. Because like every Skylander in this game is absolutely usable, especially in the right team synergy. And the one thing I want to say, like I always say, is team synergy is the most important thing, guys. No matter what Skylander you choose to build, just make sure you're building it around a team and team synergy. And then you really can't go wrong with building any of these Skylanders. But I do want to touch on Wallop, another really fantastic Skylander. Just needs the right team synergy behind him, especially with his A1 with that silence and knockdown, really good for Merge Tower. Thunderbolt, another one really good for a electric shock team. Now, I don't really see many people using like High Vault. I think he could be really good for a electric shock team as well. He is a tank, defense-based unit, and he does have a provoke and a defense up. I just feel like he gets outshined by like Chill and other tanks that are in the game at the moment. We got Crusher. I feel like he could be a really good rare too. His kit is a little bit lacking for me, so I definitely wouldn't be building Crusher and High Vault early on. Maybe when we get later into the game and we just want to build some fun toys. Same thing for, Thunderbolt, Gusto, and Lightning Rod. Now, I know, again, they are good Skylanders in the right team. Do not get me wrong with this video, guys. I'm not saying these Skylanders aren't good. I'm just saying they're not probably going to be the ones that you're building, right when you start playing Skylanders. So just keep that in mind. So I think we touched on all the rares I want to touch on. And again, Food Fight is another one. I know a lot of people love using Food Fight. He could be really fun. Same thing with Zook. I know a lot of people will use him as well. And the thing about them is I feel like they're just fun toys, not something you're going to build, in your first 2 weeks to a month of playing when you're actually trying to just clear content and get your main PvP teams built. But hey, when you have everything built and you want to come back and have some fun, These Skylanders can definitely be some fun toys to build, and they're cheap and easy because they are rares. So it won't cost you, a ton of resources to do so. So that is going to wrap it up for this one. I hope that kind of gears you guys in the right direction on what rares you should be building. Next, we will do premiums, and in that premium video, I will pick the sub celebration winners. We do have 2 monthly giveaways going on Discord. I would love to have you a part of both of them. Thank you guys so much for the awesome support. I love each and every single one of you. I will see you in the next one. Spaceballs out. Peace.